Christian Horn, the co-founder of Replace. We discussed together and to say when we will consider that the project is a success. And we agreed to say when we will be able to install the machine in Africa, we'll consider it will be a success because it will show it can work everywhere. So ready to install in Nigeria if we effectively, after the scale up, because effectively it's the step we need effectively to be able to spread our system everywhere in the world.
Patrick, I saw you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, so kind of scaling is, I mean, echoing both of their comments. You know, as we scale, our technologies will continue to improve. As we continue going down the road of developing and optimizing, we'll be able to utilize that knowledge base to develop better solutions for the third world, which make even better sense. For us, we have an Argentina facility that we think could be a model that could be deployed not only in Africa, but in the Philippines, in areas that have high pollution rates of plastics. You know, you don't have to look too far from even our backyard, all the way down to Latin America, at least from, you know, Southern California standpoint. And I think what the full circularity is taking the waste and putting into something that's simple and easy to use. And that's kind of why we generated, you know, a rock at the end of the day. Its applicability to so many different things really helps regions when we do deploy it, just to build off of what we've already done.
Katrin, do you want to?
As we are sustainability entrepreneurs, we have the open access approach. So we share our knowledge about how to remove microplastics and micropollutants from any kind of water, and we build the solutions with the companies in the countries where we deploy. So for us, it's not like we send the technology in a container to a country with large logistics. We put our knowledge to the country. We help to improve the education and the overall understanding of how to build sustainability in the countries with our approach of social and sustainability entrepreneurship.
Thank you. We've got time for one more question. Oh, okay. The lady on just in the aisle here, please. There she is.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's really great to see all kinds of new technologies to make plastics from a whole range of different materials. So the one question I had is any of these materials also biodegradable or only compostable or recyclable?
Ours isn't, unfortunately. It's made from plastic waste, so it at end source is not biodegradable, for at least ours.
But what I can say on this is that, as we heard before, there is a plastic based on seaweed, biodegradable plastic. So there is a large scale of potential to create new plastic. But when you will have to collect and sort this all new plastic, it will become even much more complex to separate them. So all this technology, which no need to have separation, will, at the reverse, can accept whatever kind of plastic. And this will bring the solution to other innovators, which will deploy new plastic.
I want to add something here. The UBQ is not biodegradable. UBQ is highly recyclable, more than plastics. So many times without losing capabilities, because it's not a polymer, it's a thermoplastic composite. But biodegradable is very nice to hear, right? But sometimes, please remember, the cost to the environment to create some of these biodegradable products, not all of them, by the way, but some of them, is higher than the benefit that you get to the environment from its biodegradation. And yet again, on that side, you also have a problem, because for something to biodegrade, it has to have the conditions to biodegrade. Most of the plastics end up in landfills. Landfills are anaerobic systems where you cannot biodegrade. You turn into methane. So I hear the view of the LCA, of the complete value chain of emissions from A to Z is extremely important. And the fact that we are able to collect all those, their biodegradables, non-biodegradables, and put them together and bring them back to the economy are solutions that do make sense. So I will give you one example. PLA, which is the very well-known biodegradable plastic, costs the environment 4 times more than 1 ton of polypropylene. So 1 ton of PLA is much costly to the environment. So yes, you feel you're consuming a good product, but it costs a lot to create it, okay? So you have to see the full value chain: use of water, use of energy, use of resources, and those elements are incredible. And today the economy is looking at those things. So just like you see calories in your product, you will end up seeing what is the LCA value of your product, what is the carbon footprint impact of your product, and that will help you make the best choices to be able to access these new materials that are a good alternative to the conventional ones.
The point is, we keep the plastics in the loop. We do not create something new. And by keeping it in the loop, it becomes circular. And this means more than just replacing it with a biodegradable material, which needs more energy, more water to produce.
Make it easy.
There was another gentleman who had his hand up near the lady.
I'll make it very quick.
Thank you.
Three of the solutions are born out of, as far as I can understand, a waste segmentation problem. If you were able to segment accurately, would you still be competitive in terms of the end product?
So in other words, if it was easy to separate out, your materials wouldn't exist anymore because you put everything in. I think that was the kind of what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
In a perfect world where everything is really easy to separate.
Can you extract more value from accurate segmentation than the benefits of your end product?
Yeah. In a perfect world that doesn't exist, regrettably, possibly, but countries that do recycle a lot, Europe, which is a model of recycling, you will see that 40 to 50% will end up either incinerated or in landfills, because that separation is extremely difficult. And then after you separate, you will find plastics and materials, paper, cardboard, that are contaminated with foodstuff. You cannot recycle those things. So until those technologies will arrive, you will always have at least 50% of the waste going somewhere, typically landfills. That is in Europe. Consider Brazil, consider Indonesia, consider any place. Peru, I come from Peru, by the way. It's an enormous problem. So hopefully someone will address that in the future. In the meantime, the better we can connect all these materials and create alternatives to those that are being mined in a world that is being depleted, is keeping materials in the circle. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
And if you consider, for example, the PET recyclability, the bottle, so the separation, and you separate the polypropylene, the PET, but at the end you have the rest of the labels and polluted by other things. This is this material we put in our process. So means we bring even a solution for all the existing recycling companies which have waste. And this waste can be transformed by our processes.
Okay, we have time for maybe one more question, if we have any more questions from the audience. Everyone's looking impatient and they're waiting for the keynote speech, which is coming shortly. We have one last question here.
Hi, is it working? Okay. Thanks for the note on bioplastics and on offering an alternative once our flexi has to go somewhere, because it's true. It's one of the big questions we get asked about the landfills. I just have a quick quantitative question. What is the yield with a UBQ in terms of waste mass into UBQ material? And what is the shrinkage in terms of density? And if you have time, is it batch independent? Like, what is the repeatability between the batches?
Okay, we will have a cocktail together.
Obviously, yes. Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, but it's 100% conversion. What comes in goes out. The only difference is water, which is basically goes into vapor. Waste is very humid. I don't know if you know, but about 40% of it is water. Consider a piece of apple or a potato, right? Or a banana, a lot of water. Everything that is not water is 100% converted. luckily, because of that humidity, we don't use any water in the process, except for the showers for the employees. But in the process, we don't use any water. Yes. And the density is 1. So we are basically almost like polypropylene, and much better than PVC, of course. So we are in the realm of plastics. And the other stuff we'll talk later.
I saw you wanted to jump in, even though the question wasn't for you, Laurent. You were like, ooh, no, okay. Right, well, we're coming to the end of this panel, but just to conclude, what I would like to do is, I'd like to, since this is the last panel of the day, and you've actually heard everybody, I was just thinking of, you know, the kind of messages that you think have come out of here that you think people should be taking home, from your point of view, but also in generally on the Ocean Innovators platform and where we go from here. And I'm going to start with you, Laurent.
So, but first, it was really interesting to see so many ideas and potential to do the things. My message is that it's highlight how it's impressive all solution we can deploy. And I think there is not a good solution versus bad solution. I think every solution has some interest. We speak about PET, recyclability, and other stuff. And I think everything has to be worked on to be sure we can develop all solutions. So it was really instructive and very positive from my side.
Okay, I was going to go to everybody else, but I'm afraid we're going to have to now wrap up. I'm sorry that you're not able to add your conclusions as well, but I think that was a good one to take home, and I think it's one everybody on the panel can share. So that's all we have time for. Thank you to our wonderful speakers, Laurent, Patrick, Tato, and Catherine. And thank you to everyone who's been involved in this session. Thanks to the session's co-convener, the Solar Impulse Foundation, the organizers from the Prince Albert II Foundation, also the interpreters who are upstairs doing a hard job, and the technicians as well. Everything's gone very smoothly. And my final thank you goes to you, the audience here. Thank you for your attention. You've been very good with some excellent questions. And now I'm going to hand back and say thank you to everyone. And I'm now going to hand back to Jeannie.
Thank you, Amilda.
Thank you.
Aminda, thank you so much. Thank you again to all of those panelists for that session on plastic innovation. Thank you very much. As they're taking their seats, I'd ask you all now to please stay in your seats just for a few minutes. His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco will be with us here shortly to hear the keynote speech from the chairman and founder of the Solar Impulse Foundation, Bertrand Piccard, who's gone to welcome the Prince now. I'd just like to remind you all, when the Prince comes into the room, if you would all please stand. Thank you so much. He should be here momentarily. Thank you. gentlemen, Prince Albert II of Monaco. Ouais. Monseigneur, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the keynote speech of this Ocean Innovators platform with a man who's made history not once but 2 times. He was the first person to go around the world non-stop in a balloon and then again in a solar plane without fuel. He has been tirelessly promoting renewable energies and clean technology for over 20 years, and he is now working on more than 1,000 solutions to protect the environment in a profitable way. But before he comes up on stage, let's now take a look at Bertrand Piccard in pictures.
Every dream in history was considered impossible until it had been accomplished. Behind each achievement, explorers have invented the future by going beyond the frontiers of certainties. They have broken the rules, challenging common assumptions to discover new solutions. Today, solving the environmental crisis seems out of reach. We need the same pioneering spirit that has in the past allowed mankind to achieve the impossible. This is how we will find the solutions to change the world. Bertrand Piccard, the visionary behind Solar Impulse, wanted to demonstrate the incredible potential of renewable energies and clean technologies. Solar Impulse was built to carry this message around the world.
Hello, Solar Pulse. Hello, Captain Piccard. I am inspired by your pioneering spirit.
You know, Mr. Secretary General, if an airplane like Solar Impulse can fly day and night without fuel, the world, of course, can be much cleaner.
Hotel India Bravo, turning final, 02 right.
More than an achievement in the history of aviation, Solar Impulse has made an achievement in the history of energy. Let's take it further.
What can be done in the sky can be done on the ground. Replacing old and polluting infrastructure by modern and efficient technologies is logical as much as ecological. Convinced that protection of the environment will become a reality only if it's economically viable, Bertrand Piccard has launched the second phase of his action, committing the Solar Impulse Foundation to identify 1,000 solutions that can protect the environment in a profitable way. Developed by startups and corporates, these solutions reduce pollution and improve efficiency in the fields of water, energy, construction, mobility, industry, and agriculture for a better quality of life. Assessed by independent experts and labeled by the Solar Impulse Foundation, they represent the market opportunity of the century, generating jobs and clean growth. In the near future, Bertrand Piccard will travel around the world again to present this unique selection of solutions with one goal: encourage governments, businesses, and institutions to go beyond compromise and set more ambitious environmental targets and energy policies. Here again, the spirit of exploration has a role to play in achieving what many people still consider impossible. And you can be a part of it.
please welcome the chairman and founder of the Solar Impulse Foundation, Bertrand Piccard.
Monseigneur, mon cher Albert, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. There has been so many things done with the Principality of Monaco at the time of the Solar Impulse aeroplane that I'm really elated to have now a common event for solutions between Prince Albert II Foundation and the Solar Impulse Foundation. And I have a lot of things to tell you. But first, I would like to explain you where my passion for the environment comes from. In 1960, it's not far away. Can you imagine that the governments of this world wanted to dump their radioactive and toxic waste in the deepest trenches in the oceans because they thought it was empty? And maybe the story that inspired me the most in my life is the story of my father making the dive with a bathyscaphe to 11 kilometers down in the Marina Trench, telling me I saw a fish and 3 shrimps, showing that there was oxygen. And oxygen is only made at the surface. So it was the proof that if oxygen was down there 11 kilometers deep, there were currents, vertical currents going up and down, and that all the pollution you would put down there, one day or another, would pollute the entire world. And from that moment on, it was officially prohibited in the world to dump radioactive waste in the deepest trenches. So for me, it was a big lesson because it shows how scientific exploration can bring knowledge, can attract the awareness of the people. But it would be nothing if there was not political decisions to change the behavior of the people. So today we need to keep on this pioneering spirit, this spirit of exploration, but not necessarily to explore new territories because we know all the world and we've even gone to the moon. But we need to explore new ways of doing and new ways of thinking. And this is why we're here together speaking about solutions. And solutions really do exist. And this was, for me, the main message of the Solar Impulse adventure. Can you imagine what it is? You have the Mission Control Center with 60 flight engineers in the Régnier 3 auditorium next to here in Monaco, and the plane flying above oceans. And when you fly above oceans, it's very long flights, crossing the Pacific, crossing the Atlantic. And there was only one source of energy, it was the sun. And big propellers turning left and right of my cockpit, no noise, no pollution, no fuel, I could fly forever. And I promise you, once I pinched myself, I thought I would wake up in my bed because it would be a dream. But not. I did not wake up, I was not sleeping. I was not in the future. I was not in a science fiction movie. I was in the present with what the technologies of today allow us to do today. And that was for me like a revelation. Because if I was not in the future, it meant that the rest of the world was in the past. And think about that. The technologies we use today, almost all of them, were invented in 1920 at the beginning of the oil era. Thermal engines, completely inefficient. At the most, it's 27% of efficiency. My electric engines had 97% of efficiency. We have badly insulated buildings, inefficient heating, cooling, and lighting systems, old industrial processes and dirty ways to burn fossil fuels to have movement, heat, or electricity. Are we proud of that? So we bravely wave our latest smartphone to make believe that we are modern, but everything else is inefficient and outdated. And this has to change. But the word change frightens everybody. And here maybe I speak to you more as the psychiatrist than the explorer. But people hate to change. People want to keep their habits, keep their benchmarks. So I think we should avoid the word changing and put the word modernization. Can you imagine? We have to modernize all our infrastructures, and then people can be excited. We modernize everything. Okay, but then you have the finance people who say it's going to be expensive. And it's true that if it's expensive to modernize all the infrastructures of mobility, construction, agriculture, industry, everything, nobody will do it. But imagine that it's profitable. And this is the test that we made at the Solar Impulse Foundation in the last 6 years now. This is the story you have seen in the film. Launching the target of reaching more than 1,000 solutions that would protect the environment, but at the same time create jobs and make money. And fortunately, everybody told me at the beginning that it was impossible. And I like that, because when something is impossible, the people you meet, the people you attract, the people who support you are fantastic people. This is why I was so much supported, of course, by Prince Albert and by Monaco from the beginning, and from experts, and from my team. And today, we have reached almost 1,400 of these solutions. So you see, the impossible doesn't exist in the reality. The impossible exists only in the mindset of the people who are prisoners of the past, instead of being open to the future. So today, what does it mean to have so many solutions that are profitable, that create jobs and protect the environment? It shows that we can finally reconcile ecology and economy and change the narrative. We cannot continue to say that protection of the environment is expensive, boring, and sacrificial. We need to show that it is profitable, job-creating, and exciting, and that it's a fantastic business opportunity for the industry. It's a fantastic opportunity for investment. And like this, we can attract a lot of key decision makers who have as only target to create jobs, otherwise they are not re-elected, or to make profit, otherwise they are kicked out of their company. So we can come and say, okay, you want to create jobs, you want to make money, you want to be famous, you want to be re-elected, whatever. You can do it much better with the new solutions that protect the environment than with the old solutions that destroy the environment. Which means that we don't need to go into the degrowth theory of the activist, because I believe that this will lead to a social chaos. You cannot redistribute money if you have no money. You need to create wealth. And if you have nothing for social security or for the pension funds, it doesn't work. But at the other hand, it's absolutely clear that if we continue to do what we do today, we destroy the future of the planet, or let's say the future of humankind, yeah, because the planet will be even better without us. But at least the future of humankind will destroy. So we need to refuse both. We need to refuse degrowth, and we need to refuse this so-called illimited growth that leads to ecological disaster. And in the middle of these two impossible choices, there is what I like to call qualitative growth, where you make money, you create jobs by replacing what is polluting by what is protecting the environment. In other words, you link the GDP not anymore with the quantity of the consumption and the waste, but you link the GDP with the quality of the efficiency. And because you have less waste, you need less resources to reach the same target. You have more profit that allows you to pay for the upfront investment. So in theory, it's perfect. The world of investors is happy. The world of business is happy. The world of industry is happy. Why don't we have it everywhere? Why don't we have everywhere all these solutions? You've seen, for the one who were in the previous panel, and also the panel this morning, these fantastic entrepreneurs, innovators, who have solutions to sort out all the plastic waste, to produce electricity with waves, to have new type of concrete that reconstitutes the biodiversity in the ocean. Each time you build something, all the offshore wind turbines can be built with e-concrete, which is better for the biodiversity than not using this new type of concrete. We have all these solutions, all these innovators. And what happens? Laziness, stupidity, inertia, but no decisions. Imagine that all these governments would just make it mandatory to be efficient, just make it mandatory to be modern. That would change the world. So today we are in a completely other situation than we were before. Before it was the ecologists, the activists, who were pushing the governments to act. And the governments could not act because it was too expensive and the solutions did not exist. Today, who is starting to push? The innovators, the investors, the industry. They push because they know that they will make better business. But they have to push more. And they have to make it known officially that they are pushing and asking for new regulations. And I'm sorry to end up with regulations after speaking of flying around the world with the spirit of exploration. But you know, it's exactly the same thing. We need exploration in politics, exploration in the way to put new legislation in place. Because if you look at the reality today, the regulations, the legal framework, let's say, is as outdated as the systems that we still use. So when you have a company who is accused of polluting the ocean with plastic, they answer, what we do is legal. There is no regulation that restrains us from doing it. So although the solutions exist, they are not used. So today it's a question of modernizing the regulations. And when we speak in a normal audience, everybody says, okay, yes, but there is maybe no leverage. Here in Monaco, there is a head of state who knows that the regulation has to be modernized, who speaks about it officially at the Tribune of the United Nations, speaks about it to other heads of state, and this is a big advantage. This is why it's very important to be in places like Monaco. Now, of course, we will end up this Ocean Week with what type of knowledge? The knowledge that solutions exist. You have met the people who are producing these innovations. But we need to end up this Monaco Ocean Week with more than that. It needs to be really action. And we need to go to the media. We need to go to local authorities at the level of regions, cities, because not everybody can speak to heads of state. The one who can have to continue doing it, of course, and spread this message. But everywhere, it is so positive. You know, everybody today knows that we need to bring enthusiasm in ecology. And if you come and you say, oh, there are so many problems, nobody will listen to you. If you say there are so many solutions and they are profitable, people will listen to you. So you have to speak, otherwise nobody will hear you. So the Ocean Week doesn't start the last day of the Ocean Week. I would say it starts on the last day, when you will leave Monaco and when you will be the ambassadors to have a much more active future, to bring this spirit of exploration everywhere. So it's a responsibility. We should not just wait for others to do it. We have to do it at our level each time we can. And we have, of course, the ambassadors who are the providers of solutions who are here. You have the one that you have not known because they're not here, and you can look on the website of the Solar Impulse Foundation, look on the website of the Albert II Foundation, all the ones that exist, and invest in them, use them, promote them, speak about them, and you know, there is not just one of them who's going to change the world, but all of them will. It's like the piranha theory. You know, the piranha, these little fish in the rivers of South America, if one of them bites you, you don't feel it because it's a little fish. But if 1,400 of them bites you at the same time, you're a skeleton in 3 minutes. And this is what we have to do with 1,400 solutions. Each one bites a little bit of CO2, a little bit of plastic, a little bit of inefficiency, a little bit of waste, a little bit of pollution. And all together, they save the world, or they change the world. They modernize the world, and they offer a better quality of life. And it's not a better quality of life only for the future generations, because that's not a big incentive. No, it's a better quality of life for our current generation already. It's not for the future, it's for the present. It's not only for the environment, it's for humankind. That means it's for us. So we have to do it in our own interest. And it's possible because solutions exist and they are profitable. So I repeated that several times for you to really remember it and be the ambassadors of this fantastic week where we were not speaking just about theory, but about very, very concrete systems, technologies, product, materials, sources of energy that exist today. So we're at the beginning of something that can be a huge success or a failure. Depends how much energy, human values we put in it. Good luck.
Thank you so much again to Bertrand Piccard. That was so inspiring. I don't know about you, but I'm never going to think about piranhas in the same way. All right, we are going to wrap up now today's Ocean Innovator platform with a summary of the key points from the different sessions today. To help us do that, can I please ask on stage the representatives of the co-conveners of the different panels? Can I please have Ben Lesage, Global Coordinator for the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, Stephen Murphy, Lead at Climate Tech, Ron Tardif, Marine Ecologist and Pillar Lead for Uplink Ocean, Damien Payetakis, Damien, where are you? Head of Sustainable and Impact Investing at Barclays, and Olivier Venden from the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. Please, everyone, take a seat. There you go. So welcome to those we haven't seen before. Welcome back to you. We just have a short amount of time before a wonderful cocktail awaits us. I'm going to give you each 2 minutes to answer a question. Stephen, let me start with you. Climate Tech was the co-convener of 2 sessions today, regenerative ocean farming and on building sustainability in coastal areas. What are your main takeaways from those 2 sessions? And is it possible to move toward this modernization instead of this idea of change, as Bertrand Piccard was just saying?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much. And I should say at the start, the offset, I'm not a scientist or an engineer, so in that context, I just want to thank Roma for the most amazing content they put together today, and we've been delighted to be part of that as Climate Tech. So somewhat overwhelming, I guess, is my first takeaway, trying to understand from the amazing innovators in the room, but totally inspiring. And my second key takeaway is to come out very optimistic. There's a lot of eco-anxiety around these days, so to come out hearing from these amazing innovators, obviously everybody from, I've met with founders from 20 years old to 60 years old, and, by definition, we can't expect corporates to innovate. And typically governments don't innovate, although I suspect the Monaco government and the Prince are exceptions to that rule. So it's amazing to hear the work being done here. So yeah, the innovation is amazing. The third thing I want to take away is on the funding side of things. So I work with climate technology founders and investors every day. And often when we talk about infrastructure and hardware, there seems to be a funding gap. So it's awesome to hear from some founders today that they're not having that problem. Maybe they're post-revenue or growth. But I guess part of the reason for being here in Monaco is to tick off the finance box and encourage more investment into, especially on the hardware side. And very quickly, my fourth takeaway, because we join these amazing annual conferences, and I think it's important to come together more often, potentially. So part of my job is that I chair the Climate Tech Council, which is where we have 20 founders globally who represent industries from nuclear fusion to cell-based food, storage technology, and we bring them together on a council to discuss better ways of collaborating. So I'd like to announce the launch of the Climate Tech Oceans Council, where we're going to identify 12 to 15 founders, some of whom are in this room today, to come together on a more regular basis to discuss with a small number of oceans investors and some thought leaders. And maybe we'd like to invite people like Bertrand along to give us keynotes. And then maybe we can come back next year with some solid outcomes.
Fantastic.
So, thank you.
Stephen, thank you. Ben, let me turn to you now. The Sustainable Ocean Alliance sponsored our very first session this morning on blue carbon. We saw so many different approaches in that panel, from seaweed to whales to how to link blue carbon with businesses. It seems like it was really emblematic, this session, of the crossroads between technology and business. Would you agree?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I would like to thank His Highness and Romain and Olivier for this first successful edition of the Monaco Innovators Platform. Not easy to summarize the blue carbon topics in 2 minutes, but I think we all agree this morning that in the face of the climate emergency that we are all in, we are in a race to basically go to carbon neutrality by 2050. It's a race we must win. And yeah, thanks to recent scientific discoveries and new technologies and innovations, we have realized that blue ecosystems have an amazing opportunity to capture carbon. Sometimes from 5 to 1,000 times versus what is existing inland. If we compare a tree to a whale, we say we cannot compare them still. And yeah, as you said, we saw amazing solutions this morning. They are amazing, yes, because they come from the Sustainable Ocean Alliance network. And yeah, we all agree to say that we are only at the beginning. We repeated several times that we are entering a new sphere when it regards to blue carbon. There is still a lot to achieve, many things to develop when it regards to carbon measurements, put a carbon price, reaching the carbon market as well for all these blue carbon opportunities. And finally, there is one thing you may take from this morning session, is that more than blue carbon, it's mostly about regeneration.
Thank you, Ben. Ron Tardif, you moderated our session on blue food that was co-convened with Uplink. What are your takeaways? Can new technologies help renew and promote blue food?
Thank you, and thank you to the organizers, His Royal Highness, and everyone here, and to the Foundation for this opportunity. I actually want to go back to the very earliest days of our species coming out of Africa. And actually, we've lost a lot of this evidence, and we've kind of ignored it because we have a terrestrial bias, because we live on land. But some theories in my field would tell you that actually some of our earliest and most important food sources came from the sea. We've lost that evidence because sea level has risen so dramatically in the last 100,000 years or even a few million years. But at the same time, I think as our earliest days as a species depended on the sea for our sustenance and perhaps even the evolution of our brains, so too our future is returning and looking at the sea for the producing wonderful food products like urchins and uni for sushi, but also for even producing biostimulants to improve our food systems here on land. So I think that the future of food really is blue, and that there are so many innovative technologies and solutions that exist today to make that process regenerative, to make that process less dependent on make our food systems less dependent on fresh water, less dependent on land, especially as we reach 8, 9, 10 billion people. It's going to be impossible to feed everyone with our dependence on really land and water intensive technologies in agriculture. But the sea offers another opportunity.
Ron, I'm going to keep you a quick question on Uplink. What's the next ocean challenge?
So next month, we will be launching with Marriott Hotels, Iberostar, Dynamic Planet, and a few other interesting partners, a new challenge on regenerative and resilient coastal tourism. So we'll be looking for solutions that can, perhaps even from Monaco, countries that are very dependent on tourism, how can we make those communities more resilient? We've seen a complete collapse of tourism. So the solution isn't only tourism, so it's better tourism, regenerative tourism, but what other alternatives are there? And we've seen some of them, such as eco-wave power or others. What else is there for tourism-dependent communities? So I'm looking forward to the next batch of solutions on Uplink.
Ron Tardif, thank you very much. Damien, you moderated our session on investing in the ocean. That was co-convened with Barclays. Now, we saw several different categories of investors in that panel, from governments to venture capital, investment funds. Are there any parallels to be drawn between all of these different styles when it comes to investing in the ocean?
Yes, absolutely. While I think we saw different approaches to how they would think about investing, I think the underlying and shared common belief is that investing in the ocean economy has both attractive financial potential as well as a responsibility or an existential need for us. And it's actually interesting because across all of those groups, and even the conversations that we have with clients, within the private bank, I'm privileged to speak with our families and family members and their officers around how do we invest sustainably, that conversation of how do we move forward, not just about the financial return, but actually the idea that more and more families want to not just invest for their financial future, but actually to influence it, or perhaps to modernize it, would be a better way to say it. And I think that when we think about the parallels from all of those investors, if we want to influence the future, we need the capital as well as the solutions to be able to scale existing solutions, to be able to take novel solutions and actually develop them further, or even create new solutions. And so if we think about that aspect of how we serve clients, and Barclays has been in Monaco for 100 years at this point, and the conversation we're having is actually how do we invest for them for the next 100 years? What is the future that we want to create, and what do they want to create, and how do we help them to do that? Which I think is a really exciting way of thinking about the capital and the wealth. But if I was going to make one other parallel, I guess, to the wider climate movement, in some ways, when we look at ocean economy, it's that the longer we wait to act, and actually the longer we wait to deploy capital, the more damage, the more difficult it is to address, and actually the more likely that we have breakdown around ocean or even broader climate issues. And so I think in some ways the pioneering spirit also needs to come from investors. So for those of you who are investors in the room, I think we and I would certainly encourage you to think about how does your capital catalyze the future that you'd like to see, and how can you do that to create value both for your portfolios, obviously, in terms of financial or economic return, but also for our planet and our oceans.
Damien, thank you so much. Damien Payatakis. Well, we are almost at the end of today's Ocean Innovators platform. We'll wrap up now with some words in closing from you, Olivier Venden. We really saw today how important it is to use innovation, to use new technology, to come up with answers for some of the biggest challenges that are facing the oceans today. I guess my question is are we on the right path?
I will tell you that I think we are, and we should remain all optimistic. Otherwise, we can just all go back home and wait until the doom and gloom situation just take us over. If you allow me to, I would like to pick up a sentence from you, Bertrand, from your book, and it was in the video, but let's be logical and ecological. I think it all starts there. It seems so easy. The solutions are on the table. We have dynamic business. We have dynamic investors. I'm pretty sure we have a goodwill in general. Human beings and decision makers are good people. And I meet you there, Bertrand. I think there's a lot of ignorance still now. And I'm afraid Sylvia Earle yesterday told us, now we know. In this room we know. But the general public, I'm not sure. And I think there's still a lot to do to make people convinced that there is a problem and that the solutions exist. So my point here is, again, to thank all our partners and co-conveners, because it was probably an excellent and good intuition that we had last year with our friends from Barclays, but unfortunately with COVID we had to postpone this initiative. And then we met Bertrand Piccard again at COP26, And yes, it was central in all debates that we must push as hard as possible at every single level the solutions existing for the planet. What I will take away from today's meeting is that we have good news. And a lot of business that came up on stage refuse the status quo that Your Highness you praised on Monday and that John Kerry asked us to break the mold. And instead of talking about adaptation, we talked more about rejuvenation, resilience. And I think that's a good sense of optimism as well. Before getting to adaptation and building walls to prevent from sea level rise, we can rejuvenate our biodiversity in the ocean. To conclude, I would say that, and that was, Your Highness, the main objective when you launched the Monaco Blue Initiative already 13 years ago, but we need to bridge so many gaps. And you succeeded, Your Highness, with the Blue Initiative, with the Ocean Week now, because we need more platforms. That's clear. We need more good science, we need more good governance, and we need more good solutions and businesses. And at the end of the day, it's connecting all these dots that matter, and that's something the Foundation is proud to also bring to the table, and we will for sure continue thanks to your support, active advice, and generous participation today, as well as our moderators, panelists. This intuition will probably become a new initiative and will do all that is required, Bertrand, to push these solutions so that they can become a reality and a profitable one.
Thank you so much, Olivier Venden. Well, that does wrap it up for today. Thank you again, Olivier, to you, your whole team, to Olivier and Romain. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Excellent. Thank you again so much to all of the co-conveners. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Monaco Ocean Week. We're now going to finish the day with what we call in French a cocktail dînatoire. Very nice if you've never done it. Lots of drinks, lots of food. So go enjoy, go talk, go network, maybe make some great deals, some great investments. Enjoy the time. One final reminder, please. On your way out, please drop off your badges so we can, of course, get them recycled. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night.